Well, it can be. They go all the way up. Everybody looks like they're in timeout.
It does. I was like, what did y'all do to be so naughty? Are we on? Okay. Okay, I call this special board meeting to order. All right, we have a quorum present tonight with all members present except for Mr. Clyde Hill, who we advised to stay home because of the virus situation. Okay, we need a motion to approve our agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay. Second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Mr. Bledsoe, if you would,
Or any amendment?
okay. All right, Mr.
Madam
Sewell.
Chairman, I would like to recommend that we amend the agenda and add an item B under staff reports. And item B will be entitled COVID-19 update. Item 1 under item B will be continuity of instructions. Here. Item 2 will be continuity of operations, Mr. Haley. Item 3 will be continuity of transportation, Dr. Hunter. And item 4, continuity of finance, Ms. Dow.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the
So moved.
amendment?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, now, Mr. Bledsoe.
Okay. Will you pray with me? Our Heavenly Father, we come tonight to thank you, first of all, for your blessings. Father, we thank you that you're in control of everything that's going on around us. Father, we thank you that you have put us here for a time and a purpose such as this. We thank you today, Father, that you are our creator and our sustainer. We thank you today that you love us, that you providentially know everything that's going to happen in our lives, and we come together tonight to ask your blessings now in this difficult time, not only in this room tonight, in this community, in this district, in this state, in this nation, and in our world, Father. We pray for your blessings right now. Father, I pray that if it be your will, you would keep us from sickness according to your plan. I pray that you would be with all those that are working to intermediate and do everything we can to stave off a more serious pandemic. Father, I pray that you'll guide and direct every person, not only in this room tonight, but that will be affected by our decision in the days coming. Father, we pray for wisdom because you said you'd give it to us. We live in uncertain times. We have no idea what tomorrow holds, but we have absolute confidence that you hold tomorrow. So have your will and your way. May we be thankful, grateful people for the opportunity to serve you in times like this. In Jesus' name we ask it. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me. Okay, we would like to welcome our media this afternoon that are watching via live stream. And without objection, the February 24th board meeting minutes and the March 16th special board meeting minutes will be approved. All right, and now we have action items. Mr. Suber.
Yes, Madam Chairman, members of the board, our first action item at the recommendation of the South Carolina School Boards Association and at the recommendation of the district administration, I would ask you to take action on temporarily suspending policy BEDH, which is public participation at board meetings. Obviously, because of COVID-19 and the fact that the governor has shut down the schools and shut down public access to schools and to these meetings, we would recommend that a temporary suspension of this policy be in place until further notice.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Carey?
Good afternoon, Chairman Metz, members of the board. In your packet, you will see a memo that has our district textbook adoptions enclosed for your approval. We had our teachers spend many, many hours pouring through the different types of materials that are available and attending caravans, and we bring the recommendation to you based on their feedback. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you have at this time. This is one thing, luckily, we were able to get in before all of the chaos of COVID-19 ensued. So.
Move to accept recommendation, Madam Chairman.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Before we move on to staff reports, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Mr. Suber, we had a policy, and I can't remember the number, that allowed board members to call in to executive session in the event they could not make the meeting. And I know a big bone of contention in that policy was not to participate, not to vote absent. In the event that we may have to have a board meeting virtually, could we suspend that policy? Or what action would we need to take to facilitate a virtual meeting in the event that we could not get together?
What my recommendation would be is to let us research that with the South Carolina School Boards Association and their attorney and get some guidance on that, and we can come back to you with that recommendation.
I don't know whether y'all remember that
No, I
policy.
do,
But
yeah.
It was a big bone of contention that we couldn't vote. But given the days that we're in right now, we may have to do that.
Right. And I'll go ahead and this is in my comments later, but I'll go ahead and obviously you're well aware of the fact that the governor has extended the time out of school until at least through April 30th, which encompasses our next regularly scheduled board meeting. So at best, we'll have this same setting for our next board meeting. And depending upon, the climate out there and what is going on with COVID-19, there could be a possibility where we have to have it, and we'll have to do it virtually with maybe you participating from your homes if it gets to that point. So we'll leave those options open as well. Answer your question.
Thank you.
All right, staff reports, Ms. Down.
Thank you, Chairman Metz and members of the board, and Mr. Suber. You have a copy of the cash flow for the month of February in your board packets, and I'll review that with you now. Our prior month's ending balance was $27.3 million. Our deposits for February were $4 million, and claims were $5.3 million for an ending balance in February of $26 million. On the following page, this is broken down by fund. General fund, $18.2 million. Federal projects, $3.6 million. EIA funds, $3.7 million. And other state restricted funds, $755,000. Again, $26 million at the end of February. The cash flow for the technology and construction funds includes a balance of $771,000. We did have February payables of $14,514. That included flooring replacement in the front office area of Whitmire Community School. The following pages are our revenue and construction funds, and, excuse me, our revenue and expenditure reports, and I'll try to answer any questions about those that I can at this time. Okay? All right. You want me to proceed with what I will loosely call a budget update?
Yes.
Okay. As you all know, our Senate and House members are not in session right now and don't really know when they plan to be in session. And the BEA is planning to meet on April the 9th to give an update on the revenue estimates for our state. Because of COVID-19, it is anticipated that economically things are going to look a whole lot different. And that means that our budget could look a whole lot different. I have heard that there is a likelihood that our legislature will proceed with a continuing resolution for the 1920 from the 1920 budget for 2021. They have not done so yet. Should they do that, my recommendation, as well as the administration, will be that we also bring a continuing resolution to the board. We have done that previously. We did it in 2018. What happened was we were down to the wire. The legislature was down to the wire approving the budget. We were not sure if a budget would be in place on June the 30th, and at our June meeting, we brought a continuing resolution to you. We did not need it. They did actually finish the budget in time, but the continuing resolution basically states that should the state not have a budget in place, that we would operate on our current year's budget for the following year, and that if for some reason they did get a budget in place in time, that this resolution would not be effective, would no longer be effective. So I am working on that. I've got a draft of it already. Don't feel like it's something that you have to take action on tonight, but it's something that we need to understand is a great possibility that we will need to. And I'll answer any questions you might have about that right now.
Ms. Dowd, I know you probably like it or watch it like everybody else or more than most, but I believe the financial repercussions from this will be much worse than the physical repercussions. According to 2 legislators I talked to, the third quarter reports coming in for revenue are going to show dramatic drops, specifically in sales tax, and they're dreading looking at the fourth quarter.
Yes.
A continuing resolution, while it might buy some time, if this thing continues for 30 or 45 more days or 60 days, we could be looking at slashing the budget.
Yes, sir. I mean, obviously, that is something we would have to consider should that be needed.
Right.
But we definitely want to have something as a continuation in place so that we can consider continue operating as the state would be doing as well.
Absolutely.
Has there been any discussion about using the surplus money from last year to help us through that?
You mean as a cabinet?
No, well, I didn't
as-
know if you'd heard anything out of Columbia or not.
I have not. Very little has come out
I
of
know 3
Columbia.
months ago, they were looking at where we're going to spend this money. Well,
Mhm.
I think it
Well-
would be appropriate to help us get through.
And my thoughts on that, because I'm sure they've had some conversation, but, there are going to be some areas in our state that are going to need help. The healthcare system, all kinds of things, even school districts. And yes, I think that there definitely could be some discussion of how they're going to help our state get through the economic downturn that we are obviously going to have because of this issue. Mhm. Mhm.
That's right.
Well, we have definitely made our staff aware of monitoring, expenditures, and I will update you on that in my next report. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Carey?
Good evening again. I just want to provide a few quick updates about the continuity of instruction as we proceed through the closures. Our second packet of work went out to students, our second remote learning packet. Yesterday and today, we had the schools did drive-through pickups so that they could collect the work that had been done previously in packet 1 and also distribute packet 2. Packets are also available virtually. If students do have connectivity at home and do have devices, they can go to the teacher website to download that information. It can also be returned that way as well. So it's the physical aspect of it is not required. When this happened, the Monday, our first day out for the closure, all of our schools pushed out a survey to their parents. It was available via Facebook, school website, and they also encouraged parents as they came through to pick up packets and did their school messengers to go to take the survey. And I just want to share that we had, out of approximately 6,000 students, we had 2,506 responses to that survey, which was about 40% of our entire population. Of those who did respond, 590 indicated that they had no internet access at home, which was 24% of the respondents. And you could assume that the 60% who did not respond, at least that many or even more do not have a device or connectivity at home. So I just wanted to share that. I know there have been some questions about why we're not doing more online, but it is a serious equity issue when we have so many students who do not have access. We also have teachers who don't have access. We live in a rural area, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, where even people who can afford and want it can't obtain it. So we are being very careful about what we ask students to do and what we expect of them. This is a very stressful situation. Again, I know you all know this. Some folks have lost jobs. There are financial concerns. There are concerns about wellness and health, and we are doing everything we can to not add more stress to our parents, our students, and our staff. So I just wanted to share that information. We did get guidance from the State Department today via a memo at 2:30, and we are going to be scheduling meetings with our principals, if not later this week, as soon as we return back from spring break, and that gives us a lot of latitude. I don't want to go into details because this is available online and anyone can be watching, and I would hate for information to get out to someone before it gets out to our teachers and we have time to iron out the details with the principals. That's very important to us. But it does give us a lot of flexibility, and I will say this much. Second semester, we will just be giving a second semester grade. There's not going to be a third 9 weeks or a fourth 9 weeks. It will be put into Power School as one grade. And I think that's a great idea, and that's something we welcome. I do have a call scheduled. As you know, we're a part of the WEPEC consortium. The other WEPEC instructional leaders and myself will be meeting via telephone call tomorrow at 1:10, so we can discuss as a consortium what other districts are doing and come up with some good ideas for how to move forward. And then we'll be taking that information and meeting with our principals either Thursday or when we return on April 14th. IGPs, our individual graduation plans, and that's for our 8th through 11th graders. Those will be continuing. Of course, we can't do those in person, but if the parent has the ability to do that via computer, we can do that, or we can do it via telephone. But we do need to make sure that we get those meetings handled, and that is something that the state is still requiring, which is a good thing because we need to make sure that those students are provided for when they return in August. I know that's a lot of information, so I'll be glad to answer what your questions are at this time.
I have a question. Like the first round of packets, did all of our packets get distributed
Yes.
to our students?
Yes, yes. We had a really wonderful rate of pickup, and then those that weren't picked up, principals either delivered or had those sent home via the Postal Service.
Oh, great. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And just, I'm glad you mentioned packets because that's one more thing. That round of packets brought us through this past Friday. This new round that just went out will carry us through April 30th. So this will be the final packet, I hope, because I hope we're back in school in May, but I know that that's probably a very Pollyanna view of things. I hope that that we are, but if not, then we'll have to come back to the table and decide what to do about May.
Dr. Terry, do we have any numbers on the return of the work?
Not yet. not yet. But they had until 1 o'clock today, and of course, they can still go in past that time. We're going to continue to accept packets at no penalty to the students. Even one of my own children has not turned hers in. So, life happens, and we want to make sure that, we do as much as we can to be flexible with our families.
And if I may add, that is not a decision that was made in isolation by the school district of Newberry County. That flexibility to allow our students enough time to complete those packets came directly from the state Department of Education.
I wasn't implying that we shouldn't be flexible. I was just curious as to the rate of return.
Yeah.
But, Molly Spearman said in the 4 o'clock news conference when they announced the shutdown for the state that she was getting a lot of questions about the packets. Primarily, we have to agree, they're our primary means of teaching or
Yes, sir.
instruction. There is a lot of inconsistency in what we have and what we're doing. And so I hope that we as a district can say to the principals, first of all, what she said, they're going to count, because there are a lot of students that aren't doing them, and they can do them, they just aren't doing them. There are other students who are overwhelmed. I talked to a teenager who had to diagram 260 sentences. Busy work. Now, here's my opinion based on some things I've seen. I think the first 10-day packet was done just because nobody really believed it was going to happen. What I saw of the second packet looked much more comprehensive and much more in line with what we need to do. But we need to have some consistency so our principals understand this. I had one granddaughter who told me that she'd worked doing her work, and her classmate called her. She turned hers in on the day that we told them to turn it in, and her classmate said, they told me bring it May the 1st. See, that's not consistent.
No.
That's penalizing the ones that are doing the work and not the other ones. I talked to another guy that's in middle school, and he said his classmate was told the same thing. But then he talked to an administrator that lives in Newberry County, works in another district, so I want to make sure it's not Newberry County. And he said they've been told we're throwing them away because we're worried about the germs. So everything's out there. The rumors are much worse than the truth.
They are. And let me speak to the throwing away. First of all, I'm glad that's not our district. And we've gotten some guidance from, of course, our rock star nurse, Ms. Ulch, who gets everything from DHEC and the CDC. And we have been, and it did probably look very doomsday-ish when parents drove up to pick up packets and drop them off. We had folks with masks and gloves because we're taking every precaution that we need to for our staff and our families. But they have been directed to take all of that work and put it in a box. It is going to go into a secure location, and we are not going to touch it until we know, until the CDC comes out with exactly how long this virus can live on these surfaces. So we will not throw it out, but we are going to wait for further guidance because we don't want to touch it too early and then lead to a possible infection for our staff members. So it will be touched, and the CDC will help give us more guidance as to when that will be.
So why would we not set up a policy that says to every principal, we're going to count these, but the person that knows individual students better than anybody else as teachers, give the teachers some discretion. If you know this student over here has no support at home and probably didn't have it, you can be flexible, give some time. But if you know this other one had plenty of support and could have done it and just didn't do it, the teachers know that. I'm not saying be subjective in how you grade it, but I'm saying have a consistent pattern that says the principal says everything's going to be counted, the district says that, and then say to the teachers, use your discretion. You know what you gave, you know your students, they know them better than anybody.
And we've made it clear to our principals, all the way up to Mr. Suber, that it will be counted. And when we meet with them again, come after spring break, we will make sure to reinforce that. And we're actually going to talk about what the grading practices should look like, because we've gotten some guidance from the State Department, and we have some decisions to make that we definitely don't want to make in isolation without their input.
And I had one high school senior came up to me, and he was kind of talking about graduation, and his daddy came over and said, don't worry about that. That doesn't even matter. But it does to our seniors. And I hope we can do everything. I told them if I have anything to do with it, we'll make it special for you some way or another. I don't know how. But for 12 years, they've waited for this year.
Yes.
And now, at no fault of their own, we're taking the prom and the graduation and everything that goes with it. So
Well,
I know y'all.
I've seen those folks on TV talking about that, and we haven't taken it.
Oh, no.
The situation is taken it.
That's right.
And need to make that clear, in the grand scheme of things, being healthy is a lot better than walking across the stage.
So
We-
clarify one thing. Go, I'm sorry.
And we have to explain that to our children too, because they really don't understand. They really don't know what's going on. So my granddaughter, she said, Grandma, are we going to graduate this year? I said, yes, you are. And we sat down and we talked about what was going on. And the reason that there was some question about whether or not you were going to walk across that stage. So we as parents, we need to explain that to our children. We need to sit down and really talk to them about the situation.
Agreed.
And Dr. Carey, I was under the impression that we went in and we said we're going to shorten the third 9 weeks. I think we gave everybody a grade, and then we sent out third 9-week report cards. Then you said we're not going to have a third and a fourth 9 weeks. We're going to have a semester grade. Tell me how that.
Okay, yes.
Works.
Well, that's something that just came down the pike at 2:30 today from Molly Spearman, and that's why there's been a change in that. And basically, she said what we gave as that third 9 weeks grade is actually going to be considered the interim grade now. So we're.
If I can chime in, I want you to understand these situations and conversations about grading have been going on across this state for about a week and a half to 2 weeks, and all kinds of different ideas. And the last time we met, I told you about all the different conference calls, the State Department of Education, South Carolina Association of School Administrators have had a minimum of 2 conference calls per week, and Molly Spearman has been on every one of those with the exception of one when she was actually preparing to appear with the governor, and they kind of conflicted with each other. But doing something with grades and how we were going to grade was a course of conversation. I was actually on a conference call with the South Carolina Association of School Administrators Board on Friday, which Molly was a part of, our Deputy Superintendent David Mathis was a part of, and a lot of these recommendations and decisions came from that meeting, and then they had established a statewide collection of your Dr. Carey's of the world, if you will. I think there were maybe 14, 15 people in that committee, if I'm not mistaken, that after we talked, and they bounced those ideas off of that committee, and the results of what came out from the State Department today at 2:30 is basically a combination of all of that 2 weeks worth of deciding what we were going to do. But in the credit, there was even some talk about pass-fail, but in a credit-bearing course, you can't do that because of the state GPA, and we can't just give letter grades for that. There is potential flexibility at the elementary level, but it's still fluid because some of these decisions may be left up to the district. But what we've got, the documentation we've got today gives us specific regulations as to what we need to do as far as grading goes. Some of it may go back to some of our board policy and flexibility we get, so some of that may come back to you.
I just want to say to you and express again my thanks that most of the things I asked you, y'all already talked about, and I really like that. That encourages me to know that y'all have already thought about it and talked about it, but we get hit with it. And like I'm telling you, the rumors are much worse than the truth. So that's why I'm bouncing off of it. It makes me feel like I can defend it better. So I know it changes a lot too, but thank you for all you do, for looking ahead and for asking those questions.
As far as the testing, like the ACT and SAT, what are they determined that we're going to do for that for the colleges? I mean, I hear mixed.
Right. Well, the College Board, and I know you didn't ask about AP, but that's one thing they've been very good about giving us information and making concessions. The students will only be evaluated on up until the point that we were out of school. So any of the new material that would have been covered after March 13th until the AP test in early May will not be a part of those exams, and the students can take the exams remotely at home with an open book. And if they don't have a device, we've already had conversations with our district staff about providing something for them because that is such a high-stakes test. I know you didn't ask about that, but it reminded me I needed to tell you. As far as ACT and SAT, of course, with the closure of the schools across the state, as testing centers, they can't be used until schools are back open. But they have not really given us a lot of information about if you have a senior who needed to take that before they get to college or to be accepted into college, now that we're getting down to the wire, what that will look like. But I have a feeling that the Commission on Higher Ed will probably need to look at that, and it probably already is doing so, and maybe relaxing some of those guidelines for those graduating seniors.
And then also what, maybe you mentioned about if we go back to school, I don't think we are, but if we do, I'm assuming you already have a plan in place with the teachers to where they'll get everything.
Yes. Yes, yes.
In the event that we don't, I'm assuming that we will start next year as if it was March of this year.
Yeah, we would have to definitely take a look at that and see, again, what guidance we get from the State Department of Education. We know that, for instance, at the elementary or middle school level, you know, those students would be promoted as they normally would, and then that sixth grade teacher would then have the, you know, the task of covering what was missed in fifth grade during this basically fourth 9 weeks that they're missing. So high school, it's a little different animal because you've got credit-bearing courses and singletons, and we would definitely have to meet with our staff and come up with a plan for that. I have a feeling most of them are thinking about that already. The teachers' wheels are turning a lot faster than ours do. But yeah, we would definitely need to hammer that out and have some consistency across the district with how we would handle it.
What about, like, you know, summer school? Because I know that we offer that to some of the students. Like, I mean, would there be a way to catch up there for the students who wanted to?
That's a
to
great
catch up there?
question. Especially our summer reading camp, we're hoping that we'll still be able to offer that, and that while the third grade retention piece is pretty much out the window now without having that SC Ready test score, that would give us an opportunity to bring some of our neediest students in for the summer if we are able to open and provide some particularly reading instruction for them. But other things as well, because we didn't foresee being in this situation. So that would be an opportunity for our students, yes, at least at the elementary level. And at the middle and high, it's a little different beast because of the funding. At least with the summer reading camp, we already have state funding for that. So that's something we would be able to move forward with. And we would have to look at what options we have for middle and high.
If I can interject something there, part of the funds that you see from this $2 trillion package that are coming to the state of South Carolina for education, in our conference call yesterday, some of that, if we need to run an additional summer school program to get some of these students up, some of those funds can be used for that as well.
Okay.
They use that.
We haven't. That's
I
good.
have not seen that in print. That was just what was verbally shared with us on the conference call.
In the event, Dr. Carey, that we don't get back to school, we can't do summer school, the third grade retention things out the window, can we test at the beginning of next year? And would this board need to set aside some funds to hire some more reading interventionists to help us? Or do we have enough already on board to handle those third graders that we promote that really needed some help?
That may be something we need to look at. We could look at our Title I funds for that as well, which, you know, we may have, depending on how things happen. With us not being in school right now, we are accruing more money or not spending as much money as we would be with our federal funding. So we are hoping that we will get some relaxing of the guidelines so that we could maybe use some of that funding for those purposes too. And then depending on what that looks like, we may have to come to you and say we need more interventionists to get us through this period in time. That's something I can't answer right now, but it's a possibility.
Well, I hate to keep adding to the conversation, and again, this is just because this was yesterday afternoon, and the regulations from the State Department came down in writing today at 2:30, we'll ask not to discuss them. But that, part of that $2 trillion that I'm talking about coming, what we were verbally told yesterday is that a large percentage of that comes to your school district will be in the form of Title I funds, and you are going to have some flexibility. Some of that was discussed as those get some in and out there right now, but some of that could be used for additional interventionists if we have to.
I caught the tail end of what Superintendent Spearman said this afternoon at 4 o'clock, and she said there was virtual school that was going to be offered. The enrollment was beginning this week. The classes would actually start on Monday, and she said for seniors.
Yes, and that's typically for some of those schools that are semester block schools. For instance, right now, I'll give you an example. And of course, this doesn't apply to us because we're AB, but some students were just beginning to get their economics or their government credit beginning of fourth 9 weeks. So what do those students do? And that's where the virtual school could come in and they could get online and take that course. Ours started in January, so it's not as much of an issue for us as it would be for somebody in that boat. But yeah, anyone who was taking a semester class in a semester where they're a 4x4 semester type setup, that would be an issue for them, and that's who that ultimately, I think, is for the most part designed for. Yes, yes, and they're also offering credit
I did hear
recovery via that
recovery would be
option
part
as
of it,
well.
yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Haynes?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Suber, I bring to you the continuity of operations. First of all, with our custodial group, ABM, they're continuing to do wipe downs and deep cleaning in all facilities. This week, they're actually going to start a schedule with all facilities, and we will be using what we call the Clorox 360 machine. If you can kind of picture, I guess like a pressure washer with a wand, and it will put out a mist, and you just kind of start in a corner and back your way out of that room. In fact, this building was done Friday because we knew, we probably have more people working than any other facility right now. Plus, we knew we had a gathering tonight. This whole district office was done in 2 hours with that machine. So that gives you an idea. And I think it's about 18,000 square feet, this building. So it can cover a lot of territory quickly. So we'll start doing that this week. Of course, yesterday and today we had packet pickup, which even though that was a drive-through service, you still were bringing in probably more staff than normal to help with that process. So we want to get those 2 days done before we started doing a complete disinfecting of all the facilities. I will say that ABM only has one machine, and we have already ordered some, which, just like anything else, getting these machines is about like finding Clorox wipes in Walmart right now. So they're all on back order, and also the chemicals are on back order. So to help with this process, we have contacted another contractor to assist with all the disinfecting. So we'll kind of divide up the district between ABM and the other contractor to make sure all facilities are done in a timely manner. And I'll say this will only be the first time. We'll have to do this multiple times, with the last time being right before we get back into normal operation. Also, our meal plan, we did make an adjustment. Last time we met, we were feeding 2 days a week. We have now went to 1 day a week on Mondays. One main purpose for that is we were strongly, along with every district, strongly encouraged to feed during spring break. And let me say, this has been a very overwhelming task for child nutrition. And also we got bus drivers assisting with this process to take meals out to different sites. So we wanted to kind of transition and use this before we went into our scheduled spring break and go to 1 day. So we're now going on Mondays. We just started this yesterday. And we actually served right under 18,000 meals yesterday. And that's between an update from the last time we met. We did add Reuben to our school sites, and we've also added about 11 community sites around the county where the buses are taking meals to deliver to our children. So quite a number of meals went out yesterday. And so now they're serving on Mondays, and they're getting 5 meals to take them through the week, and that includes breakfast and lunch. Another part of this, facilities management, is continuing to work and complete work orders and support the operation of the district. And of course, with kitchens being operating, they're on standby to make sure none of the kitchen equipment goes down, so that's a big part of their on-call process. So every department's continuing to work in operations. We're also continuing to communicate with our architects on capital projects. I will say both of our architect groups, McMillan, Paz & Smith, and Mosley, they have been working from home for at least the past 2 weeks. So we are staying in communication, trying to get these projects through the bid process and so forth. I'm going to kind of give you a few updates on some of the projects. And let me say right now, no one from the state has said you cannot move forward with any type of construction or projects, but that could take place right around the corner. And I guess I need to see from the day's meeting with the governor what non-essential means for some of these businesses. So I need to kind of update myself from that to see what that list looks like. But it is a kind of a good time to continue some projects, but we just got to make sure we're able to proceed with some of these projects. One project, the Mid-Carolina Middle and Newberry High School restroom renovations, and also the Whitmire Community School cooler, freezer, and kitchen hood. We're still planning to advertise this project, this group of projects in April, and get bids sometime in May, and hopefully bring you a recommendation to you in one of our May board meetings, or maybe now the May board meeting if there's not a budget work session. So that way we can get these projects done over the summer as we have planned, because we'll need them complete before we open school in August. The Whitmire Community School cafeteria roof replacement, I actually have a recommendation for you that we'll discuss later tonight. We have completed the bid process and have a recommendation ready for you on that roof replacement for the cafeteria at Whitmire Community School. And finally, our Mid-Carolina High School track. As I said, we're still communicating with the architect. This is McMillan, Paz & Smith. He's actually, as I mentioned, working from home. One piece of that he wanted was an updated survey. When we first mentioned that to you at our last meeting, on the front end of that, the rain actually delayed that. We are getting that survey completed now. They should be finishing that up this week, so we'll submit that to the architect, and then the architect will finish those preliminary designs and submit those to OSF. I'm really not sure what that holdup looks like at OSF right now with everything going on with COVID-19, but once we get final approval of those plans for that track from OSF, we're looking at, you got your bid process and so forth, but once we got approved from OSF, you're looking at a 12-month window of time, and as I said before, that's with minimum delays, weather, you know, how quickly it gets back from OSF and so forth. But we haven't let those projects go to rest. We are still working and communicating with architects. Any questions for operations?
Is there a short answer to you said we served 18,000 meals on Monday, and I know we're feeding from age 1 to age 18.
That's correct.
Which is not school district responsibility. So is this all a USDA reimbursable program?
It is.
Okay.
And 1 to 18, Mr. Bledsoe, that's not necessarily our students.
That's right.
That could be any child of that age in this county. But as I've shared with the principals in meetings and staff in here, you know, if you see child nutrition people and bus drivers who are helping, please show appreciation, because it's been a very different way of serving meals, and a big part of my job is to be a listener to my child nutrition director, because she just needed someone to listen to her, and she and that staff, they want the best. They want to serve children the right way, but it's been cumbersome to do it in this fashion.
How are we doing on planning out? Are we experiencing a lot of waste, or are we getting the numbers pretty close?
We actually, in at least three locations, we ran out of food yesterday. So we're not having a lot of waste. We've actually are stressing to parents, please, you know, have your child present with you so we can get a better idea. And I think in some situations we were being taken advantage of. Not everybody that rolls up has 10 kids. So, you know, and then some that come up later were missing out on meals because, you know, we were trying to work with the communities, but that didn't work so well. So we're trying to stress, please, you know, have your kids with you. And a lot of our staff know the families, but, you know, what we're dealing with is, you know, any of our school locations, doesn't matter where you live, we've given it like a wide open option. You can go to any location you want to get your meals, or you can go to one of the bus stops. So our people that's serving at the drive-through lines at the schools or serving from the buses, there's no way you can know everybody that pulls up. Plus, keep in mind, we're serving every kid in Newberry County from 1 to 18. Might be serving some outside of Newberry County. We don't know. There's plenty of kids out there.
Now, wasn't the criteria at the beginning that they had to have the children with them?
That is
So
a
are we giving-
USDA
Okay.
regulation.
So
yes,
we're
ma'am.
not handing out meals to somebody who doesn't have the kids with them?
We're stressing to bring the kids with you so we can see that count and hand you the proper meals.
Okay.
Yesterday, day before yesterday, they relaxed that. There is a waiver that you don't have to have your child in the car, but there's all kind of paperwork and documentation that the school district has to provide. And if you stop that line to take care of all that paperwork, you got 75, 80 people back there honking the horn. So it's not as easy as it sounds like when it rolls out on TV. But right now, that is our option. We can
Yeah.
still request, if we have a question as to whether it's a legitimate breakfast or a dinner that's being served, we have the option to ask for identification, student ID, whatever we do. The good thing, like Mr. Haynes said, is most of our cafeteria workers, they know their families when they come through. So we're
Okay. Well, I mean, we can always send them to the back of the line.
And I have Lieutenant Graham here, and this is one example, but yesterday with packet pickup and lunches for just one day of serving, the traffic was going out into 219, and he had to reroute them to come in and actually wrap around the student parking lot, then back around toward the horseshoe of Newberry High. So we appreciate that assistance, but we were that busy, and I heard it was like that at multiple locations in the district with the feeding and, of course, packet pickup. But it was probably those two things together encouraged more to come out too. We were helping each other with instruction and operations, so that was a good thing. But we will continue to serve over spring break. In fact, as you know by our calendar, the next 2 Mondays are actually holidays. We will serve both of those holidays on those Mondays.
Mr. Hayden, you mentioned that you all was getting another contractor to come in and help ABM.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know who that contractor is?
I do. It's the Bud Group, and I have met with them several times. And between myself and Mr. Suber, we're getting a bunch of emails. During this COVID-19, you're getting all kinds of offerings of services, and you probably are too. So the reason, just meeting with the Bud Group, I feel comfortable with them, but also they are familiar with K-12 cleaning, but they're also already in our county. They have the contract for Piedmont Technical College here in Newberry. So they're kind of local already. And just being familiar with K-12 cleaning means a lot. So they're on standby. All right. Any other questions for operation? All right.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, and Superintendent Mr. Suber. Personally, I would like to thank all of you for allowing our great team of district employees the opportunity to continue to transport and provide meals to our students in our community. If you look in your packet, you will see the locations where our meals will be distributed for our students. We use approximately 11 buses. Of those 11, 9 of them are special ed buses. And the reason why we have those 9 buses because it allows us to put our meals on the ramp so we can easily lift them up on the bus so we can provide those meals a lot faster. So as you look at the lift for our wheelchair students, we put our meals on that so we can put them on the bus a lot faster. So that's why we use all of our sped buses. The drivers spray the buses before and after the meals have been delivered. That's one of our precautionary measures that we put in place to make sure we try to kill all of our viruses that might be in the air. Approximately 3 individuals are on the bus to deliver our meals. And as Mr. Haney stated earlier, we had over 18,000 meals provided on Monday. On our buses, we provide at least a minimum of 50 to 100. And the reason why some of them have 100 is because some of our areas have a higher population of students that we transport those meals to. Last but not least, we have one of our 3 transportation activity buses out there, the Newberry High School bus parking lot. So if the sun is out still before we leave here this evening, please ride by. You can see one of our beautiful activity buses that you all allowed us to transport our athletes during the fall and spring. Are there any questions for me and transportation?
So, Dr. Hunter, are you paying your bus drivers?
Yes, sir.
Do you pay the ones that are working more than the ones that aren't working?
Yes, sir. And I just want to say, as Mr. Haney stated, we wants to also thank our transportation department and especially our bus drivers, those that are over the age of 60, because, you know, they're at high risk, and they volunteered to make sure that our students provided meals, just like I said, once a week now. And we want to definitely give them a pat on the back whenever we see them, that we appreciate them, that they're in the trenches for our students in our community. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, just an update on the continuity of finance. Just to let you know, our payroll and accounts payable runs have been running exactly on time, the way that they were scheduled to. All of our payroll checks, though, instead of the normal distribution where our principals come and pick them up and take them back to the schools, they have been mailed. So no paychecks were picked up. They were all put in the mail, which is definitely a difference in what we had been doing, but needed to be done in this way this time. We've let everyone know that if they need to update addresses, that they need to make sure and let us know. And so if anything comes back with that, we'll be in contact with that employee if there's an issue. We are communicating with our school staff via email on deadlines for the future payroll dates so that they can email us the information rather than bringing it to us physically, so that we can try to keep our distance, you know, with other staff members in that way. Everything so far is running very smoothly. My staff has obviously been essential. You know, they've been here and they've been working. They do have the opportunity to work from home if they need to, but for the most part, we've had very little of that. They have had to come in and actually be here to make those payroll and accounts payable runs happen. And that's really what I wanted to inform you of, is that we are running smoothly and running our normal finance operations. One thing that I did not get to mention or failed to mention during my budget update is that we do have on our calendar scheduled a budget work session for April the 20th, and it is our recommendation that we actually not have that budget work session, especially in light of the fact that we right now do not even anticipate having a lot of budget information to share with you at that time. So I feel it's not necessary, and definitely don't want to bring you out for an unnecessary meeting. Okay? Thank you.
The superintendent's report.
Yes, ma'am. Item 1 under the superintendent's report is a reminder, and I think you probably have gotten this from the South Carolina School Board Association like I did, but the 2 days at the Capitol, which was scheduled for Newberry County on April the 22nd, 2020, has been canceled, and I would question whether the legislative body will even be in session at that point in time based on what we know about COVID-19 presently. Item B is the School District of Newberry County Retirement Dinner. That is scheduled for May the 14th at Newberry Middle School at 6 p.m. And obviously, you see we have put tentative out beside that. And then item C, and Mr. Bledsoe has addressed this a little bit as well. graduation schedules, timelines, baccalaureate schedules, all those are included in your board packet. I hope you had the opportunity to look at those. But obviously, all of that will be tentative as well. And I would like to follow up on something that Mr. Bledsoe said. I feel for every teacher and every student in this school district and across this country right now, because it is a time that is unparalleled. We're in uncharted waters. Nobody could ever prepare to have to do the things that we're having to step out of our comfort zone and do right now. And I just applaud the efforts of everybody, not just in this school district, but across the state of South Carolina and across these United States. But I do feel for our high school seniors across this state and in Newberry County, because right now, none of us know what we're going to be able to do. And unfortunately, I don't think that the final decision on graduations and proms and baccalaureates, I don't know that that is going to be left up to the local authorities. I really think that there's going to be some guidance, without a doubt. The CDC, DHEC, the State Department will probably all weigh in on that, and it may be a little bit easier if you said, we're going to come back to school. And I'm not saying this is the truth because I have no idea, but if they said you're coming back to school on May the 15th, I don't know that that automatically says that you're going to be able to have a large gathering and have a graduation. So we'll just have to prepare. Believe it or not, we've already had some conversations as a staff as to what if this happens? What if this happens? What if we're not in till then? But what I can do is assure you of this. When we know when we're coming back to school and what our parameters are, we will work something out to properly honor the seniors that are graduating from our 3 high schools and do things the right way. I just can't give you a time frame right now. And some of the major universities have already pushed their graduations way out into, July. And I saw one the other day that was the first week in August. The unfortunate part of that with us is the further we push it out, the more some of our seniors are going to already be going to college and becoming freshmen. So we're going to have a challenge on our hands, but I promise you, to the extent that we are allowed to by state government, we will do everything we can do to properly honor our seniors this year. Okay, thank you.
All right, at this time, I need a motion for us to move into executive session.
No move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
In executive session, we'll be in the